Hey everyone, welcome back. And today we're going to do something a little bit different, something that I hope you enjoy. We're going to talk about video editing, and specifically in Final Cut Pro. That's what I use. And so I want to teach not how to use Final Cut Pro necessarily, but how I use it, which I think, there's plenty of videos out there that show you specifically how to use this tool. Here's the UI, here's this, here's that, and those are great, and I've used those. That's how I learned to use Final Cut. But I want to walk through it more from the approach of, a professional editor. Editing is what I do. I do the whole range of video production, but I started in editing. I taught myself how to edit. I taught myself how to use Final Cut Pro, using some great online tutorials like Ripple Training and others. I got certified in Final Cut Pro. My first Mac that I got was a MacBook Pro in June of 2011 when Final Cut Pro 10 was released. I think it is super fast to work with. Once you understand how Apple has set up things, I think it is really quick to put together edits. And today, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do an edit. I'm actually going to redo the edit from my previous video on how to drain your water heater. So I'm just going to walk you through the whole process that I go through every single time, and I'll explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I think that's more of what I want this video to be, is sort of why do I do these things? Why do I edit this way? Why does this tool help me do that? Sort of a higher level look at editing. Also, I'm going to stress in this video, and you're going to see me using a lot of keyboard shortcuts. There's probably even more that I could be using, but I honestly believe that really in any application, and even just your operating system, if you learn keyboard shortcuts for doing things that you do, especially things that you do a lot, you can work a lot more quickly with your computer rather than having to move your mouse and drag for every single thing. You can just hit a keyboard shortcut, usually with your left hand. If you're right-handed, you're usually using the mouse with that hand. And if you don't have to pick your hand up off the keyboard or move your mouse to do something, and you can just use that left hand, you can do a lot more. So I'll talk a lot about keyboard shortcuts. You'll see them popping up on the screen as I do it. And so we're just going to walk through what this looks like. And here I'm gonna kick off my screen recording here, and we're gonna get going. All right, so we are starting off in Finder, because before we can get into Final Cut, we have to keep our media organized and the things that we're working with organized. And so I'm going to sort of explain how I do that. This is something that I adjust from time to time as needed, but generally what I have is I have a whole folder structure already built that is a template. And so inside of this template that I have is a whole nother set of folders. Now I have some of them numbered because I do want some of them to be in a specific order all the time, because that's helpful. There's other ones at the bottom that I really don't use a lot or even at all, but they're there just in case. But really, the media, audio, graphics, digital assets, libraries, exports, and cache are the ones that I work with the most. And inside of each of those are some different things. So inside of media, I have different kinds of cameras that you might get footage from. This is largely unnecessary. Like in reality, I could just delete this and just put my media in there, because most of the time when I'm doing an edit, I'm only getting media from one camera, maybe two different kinds of camera. I just did a shoot the other day actually where we had two different cameras. So I'll just label those as what they are, the type of camera that I'm using. Audio, I have some different folders that are important. Most of the time I'm using the voiceover folder, the music folder, the sound effects folder, and captions and subtitles. Graphics, we're looking at different visual things. Photos are probably the most common thing. Like sometimes I'll even put logos in here, because logos are not always photos, but they're something that I like to keep separate. So I'm actually going to modify this template right now. And then for digital assets, it's usually just documents. We might have some stuff. Actually, I'm going to create a presentations folder, because a lot of the time I'll end up working with a PowerPoint or something that someone will have sent to me that I need to incorporate into a video in some way. So I like to keep those in a separate folder. And then I have a folder just for my Final Cut library. And that's sort of where everything that we're doing lives. I keep my template up to date with the most recent library version, so that when I create new versions, I don't have to update the library to the most recent version. And then I have a folder for exports. This is one of my most heavily used folders. Anytime I export something, it lives in here. And then I also have a separate folder for where I keep my cache. Now, you can obviously set this up the way that you want to. For me, this has just been helpful to have things organized into folders. I like to do this with a lot of the way that I organize things. You could ultimately just have all of this in one folder. I just think that that can get a little bit messy. What I'll do then when I'm creating a new project is I will duplicate this template and then rename it to what I want to be, which is what I did when I first created the That's Good Enough folder structure. Is I now have in here media for each episode that I'm doing. I keep these separated like this. And then I could have some stuff separated, but with something like this that is episodic, I will actually also have another template inside the media folder that keeps things separated. And we'll talk about this because this is relevant to how I import the media into Final Cut. So let's open up our Final Cut library and see where we stand. I'm just going to walk you through how I would do this. So if I was creating a new library for the first time, what I would do is first click on the library here in the left. And then I would come over here to the right to our inspector, and we have these library properties. And I'm gonna look at these storage locations and hit modify settings. Now, I am a person that does not like to store all of my media in the library itself. That is an option for Final Cut. You could keep everything that you're working with inside the library. That has some useful applications, especially if you need maybe to move the library around between different people. You can keep it all together neatly, all your media together. I don't usually need to do that. So what I do is I keep the media for each library that I'm using. I keep it in that media folder that I created. So here's my That's Good Enough, and then media here, and then that's where this Final Cut Optimized Media and Final Cut Original Media folders will live. They will get created when I select a folder to put my media in. Those folders will get created. And so if you then go back and look at your folder, don't be surprised when you see stuff in there and you see those folders growing in size. That's part of the process of editing, is it has to have somewhere to store temporary files. When you're done your edit, you can clean those up and free up that space again. But that's one of the reasons why it's important to have plenty of storage space on whatever drive you're editing from. So let's talk about that for a minute. MacBooks, let's assume that you're obviously editing on a Mac if you're on Final Cut. I'm on a MacBook Pro. Whatever kind of Mac you're editing on, traditionally the advice has been to not edit off of your internal drive, meaning don't put your media on your internal drive because typically it's not large enough and not fast enough. That thinking has changed some in recent years with very fast internal storage that now can be on Macs. MacBook Pro, for example, I think can go up to 8 terabytes now of incredibly fast storage. So if you have spent those several thousand extra dollars to get that much storage internally, you probably can edit off the internal drive. But otherwise, my recommendation is still going to be to edit off of an external drive. I'm editing off of a RAID drive that has flash memory inside of it, and it's pretty quick. So it's coming over Thunderbolt 3. It's fast. I'm okay with that. And so that's where my stuff lives. So that's my media. I will pick that folder. Motion content is typically the one thing I will keep in the library because I often don't have a lot of it, and I don't put that motion content with the in the Motions template folder is your only other choice. The Motions template folder, as you can see, is something that lives on the computer you're working on. So if you had a situation where you had to move your library to another computer for somebody else to edit from, or even another computer that you have, if you put it in the Motions template folder, it's not going to move with you unless you do what's called consolidating the media. And so that's where I just like to leave it in library. And then the cache is another example. I don't leave that in the library. I actually have a separate folder for the cache. Here, also in my folder structure, that's my FCP cache. I do that also. I think it's a little bit easier just to manage that. If I want to get rid of it easily, it's there. If I want to see it and see how big it is, I don't have to go into the library. It's not encapsulated inside of the library file. And then the backups, I do keep them in the default Final Cut Backups folder that is specific to the computer you're working on. And that's mostly to keep my backups segregated from where I put my main media and my main library, and that's just for security. Or duplicating where my information is. I don't want all my information necessarily in one place. If I have a backup of my library somewhere else, that's good. And so just to go back to this real quick, here's the library file, and I was talking about how things are encapsulated in that. If you right-click on your library file and hit Show Package Contents, your library file is just a folder that inside of which are all the things that you've worked on in that library. So you see, as I'm clicking on each of these, there's then other folders. Each of these are the projects that I have inside of this library. So it's a little bit easier to manage certain things if they're not in the library, but you can see how convenient it could be to keep all your stuff in the library. All right, so back in Final Cut Pro now, we've set up our storage locations. That's really the first thing you need to do before you start working in the library so that your media goes to the right place. The next thing you need to do is, if you haven't already, and that would be, of course, to name your library. So you can just right-click on that. You can name it in the Finder first before you open it, and it'll come in with the name. And then after that, you're going to create an event. Now, the shortcut for that is Option N for new event. I normally number my episodes, so we'll call this 006 Final Cut Pro Demo. And you also have the choice here to as to which library you want to put this in. We're in this library. We only have one library open right now. You can have multiples. And then if it wants us to create a new project also, I mean, you can do that right now, but I'm actually not going to do this, and I'm going to show you what it looks like without creating a project. So we're going to call this event Final Cut Pro Demo. Now, each event that you have can have its own set of projects inside. So for something episodic like this channel, events are really helpful because I do every episode as another event. And then each event can have all the projects that I have for that event inside of it, and it keeps things separate. But I would say that most of the projects I work on just have one event that I need because I'm pulling in content and then I'm just doing a single edit. So there's not usually multiple events that are needed. But let's create this event. Here we go. So now we've got this Final Cut Pro demo event, but we don't have any projects. If we had projects, they'd be showing over here in this panel now. So let's create a project that is Command N. So events, Option N, projects, Command N to create a new one. And you know, I'm actually going to call it the same thing, but I'm going to do one extra thing at the end, and I'm going to add V1. Now this is, for me, a super important part of how I edit, and that's revisioning. So every time I complete an edit of a timeline and I deliver a version for review to a client, any comments that come back from that edit that I delivered, I create a new timeline, a new project, and with the same name, except I version the number at the end. So the next version I do of this would be V2. And that way I'm always keeping my previous versions, because sometimes people change their minds and they say, oh yeah, do this, do that. And then they see what they asked you for and they realize, you know what, it actually was better the first time. Let's go back to that. Well, if I've just overwritten those changes in one timeline, one project, I don't have those changes anymore. They're gone. So that's why I version everything. So now we're gonna pick our settings here. I almost always start my time code at all zeros. I'm not working on any film stuff that has time code sync. That's just not the world that I'm in. And I'm almost always delivering at 1080p. I have not yet had a client ask me for 4K delivery, but I shoot everything at either 4K or 6K, depending on the project, so that if I had to deliver at 4K, I could, but it gives me room to work with the footage and adjust it without losing any quality. So I'm doing 1080p, and of course I'm 1920 by 1080. Frame rate is super important here. We want to pick the frame rate that ideally that matches our footage that we've shot. So if I have shot 30 frame per second footage, or even double that, 60 frame per second footage, I would probably deliver at 30p, because nobody's asking for delivery at 60p. That's very specific. So I'm probably going to deliver at 30p. If I'm shooting something different, like I'm shooting this at 24p, and then I'm going to match my project settings to that so that everything is the same. We don't have any issues. Obviously, if you're overseas, you may be at 25p or 50p for this. I'm going to be at 24. Rendering. This is really important to editing in Final Cut Pro, because there is an option in Final Cut Pro to do what's called background rendering. And what that will do is that anytime your mouse is not moving or you're not using your keyboard or doing any input, Final Cut Pro will start to render your timeline for you to help make playback faster and export faster when you're ready to export. And then anytime you make a little change, it just needs to re-render that section right there that you changed. I often have background rendering turned off. I don't care that it's background rendering, but I'm going to turn it on today and show you what it's like. So the rendering, you're going to be just fine at ProRes 422. Your color space is also important and depends on the footage that you're shooting. So right now I am shooting in Apple Log, but if you're not sure, you can always just put it down to the standard, which is Rec 709. If you're in some sort of HDR color space, you also have to recognize that you may have issues with certain titles and effects that aren't in HDR color space. That has happened to me on several edits. And so sometimes I just stick to Rec 709. Like, we're not at the point yet where HDR content is necessary or needed everywhere. And so I think you can get away with it. So for this one, I'm actually going to put it at 709. And then audio, you can keep it at stereo. You have stereo or surround are really your only two choices. So unless you have footage that is shot in surround, keep it at stereo. Sample rates, I always recommend 48K. The other one that you'll see a lot is the 44.1. The important thing actually with your sample rate is that the sample rate of whatever audio you have needs to be matched with your project settings. So you don't want to do a project that's at one sample rate while you're bringing in audio that's another sample rate. But I would say the more important thing is that if you're bringing in something that has audio from different sources, but you're trying to synchronize the audio, those audio sample rates need to be the same. So if you have, let's for example say that I recorded an hour-long interview with someone, and I recorded it in one camera, in camera with the microphone built into the camera, just as a scratch track, and then I have them mic'd up, and I'm recording that to a separate audio device. And what I'm going to do later is synchronize the two and use the audio from the microphone to do that. But in order to synchronize them correctly, both the audio from the camera and the external recorder need to be recording at the same sample rate, because otherwise they will drift apart and not align over the length of that full hour-long clip. you will see it slowly start to not be aligned. So if that does happen, you can salvage it by putting it into something like Adobe Audition and adjusting the sample rate, and that will usually fix it. I actually had to do that recently on something that we did that, you know, the sample rates got messed up. But otherwise, just make sure you record them at the same sample rate. All right, here we go. Enough said. We're on to this, and we now have a project created. All right, and I'm going to just double click on the project, and you can see it opens it up here in my timeline. Now, there's a couple things missing from my timeline that I like to have. Actually, the one big thing is my audio meters. So that is Command-Shift-8, and then I usually adjust them to be about that wide. But I like to always have my audio meters here. And then my effects browser and my transitions, I can pop them in and out easily just by clicking on them, and they'll open up and go away. Usually I'll also adjust my clip height. There are keyboard shortcuts for this. I always forget what they are. So here we are. You can adjust all this. One thing I use the mouse for. And then I'll typically adjust it as I see what they look like. We'll do that there. I keep snapping on almost always, and I keep skimming on, and I keep audio skimming on usually until it becomes annoying. And I'll show you what that all means here. There's also this new feature they added somewhat recently, which is continuous scrolling of the timeline. I do not like the way that's implemented. It bothers me. And so I keep it turned off, and I scroll manually by holding down Shift and rolling my mouse wheel, and that will scroll my timeline left and right for me. I'm just kind of used to doing that. Okay, now we need some media in place. But before we get media in place, we got one more thing we got to double check, and that's the settings for Final Cut Pro. So that's Command, comma, to pull up the settings. And we're going to go into the General tab first and start there and just look through the settings. So time display, I like to have the subframes in view, but this just shows us hours, minutes, seconds, frames, and subframes. This is useful for if you need to make real specific adjustments. It lets you know where you are. Inspector unit, I would always say pixels for me is what works. And my default color correction is color wheels. And for HDR, if I'm in an HDR timeline, you can have it set to automatically color conform things that are HDR in a standard timeline. I'm sorry. So if you're in a standard timeline, this will automatically color correct any HDR content that you have and convert it to Rec 709. So that's all good. That's fine. Editing. This is also sort of your preference. I think it's important, to just adjust these the way that you want. Like maybe you want your default transition to be 2 seconds. Okay, your default still image that comes in to be, I don't know, let's say 5 seconds. Okay, and our default crossfade to be, 1 second. All right, so you can change these settings to the way you like them. Playback. Now here's where I don't have background render turned on, but I'm going to turn it on. And you can set how long it is until it starts. Right now it's set to 0.3 seconds, which is really fast. So almost right away. And it asks you if you want to create optimized media for multicam clips, you can, etc., etc. And then the player background, I keep it as checkerboard because if it's black and I have a black background on my video, I can't tell where the edges are. And if it's white and I have a white background, I can't tell where the edges are. So I very rarely have a checkerboard background. That's almost never. So I keep it as that so that I can see the edges of my frame. Import. This is going to be relevant to what we're about to do next. For me, this is the most critical setting. Leave files in place. This is why I have a really specific folder structure. I do not want to copy to my library storage location because the keyword there is copy. If it copies my media into the library, I now have 2 copies of my media, and that takes up a ton of room. Like I just did a shoot the other day that was like 250 gigabytes. So if I have all that footage in one folder, and then I've copied it to my library. That's now taking up 500 gigs, and we haven't even started editing yet, which is going to create more temporary files. So I always leave files in place. I like to create keywords specifically from folders, and actually not really from Finder tags. I don't really use Finder tags, but from folders is super important, and I'm going to show you. But then the other things that it likes to do automatically, I don't want it to do it on import. I don't want it to transcode all of my footage on import, because I don't even know if I'm going to use all of my footage yet. You know, if I've shot something that has multiple takes and each one of those is the clip, like, I'm probably only going to use one of those takes. I don't need optimized footage for all the other takes. I can get that by the background rendering, which is rendering only the timeline. And I don't want it to do anything else. I don't want it to fix audio. This may be helpful for you, okay? And if it is, use it. That's fine. But for me, I want to have more control over what happens to my footage, both the video and the audio portion of it. All right, so we've got this in place, and then our destinations are just what you can export to. You can see in here that I have a lot of different custom things that I've created. So I have, this is the one I probably use the most, this H.264 4.5 megabit. It's a lower quality, but good enough for delivery content. It keeps the file sizes low, but the quality works just fine. I use this a lot for the content that we upload to Vimeo to do reviews on and to deliver final products. Sometimes something will need a little bit higher quality, so I'll go with this 20 megabit per second. I even have a 100 megabit per second version, and then I have every flavor of ProRes that I could use. And then some real just specific other items for specific projects or situations. Okay, so we've got our event created. We've got our project created. And we can even change our project settings if we needed to. If we got something wrong, we can go back. But we're good. Everything's set. Now we need some media. Let's get some stuff in here. So let's jump back over to our library. And I'm going to go into media, and I'm going to pull up the settings for this. And actually, here's what I'm going to have to show you here. I'm going to have to put my Finder window over top, because Final Cut Pro has a media importer, okay? Command I is the media importer. I don't ever do this. I like to drag and drop. So let's bring our Finder window back up here. And for this thing, in my folders here, I know that I have A-roll, which is me talking, okay? I've got B-roll, and I've got two cameras for the B-roll. So I've got stuff that I shot from one camera, and then when I did this shoot, I actually did it as a two-camera shoot. I have a second camera that is just close-ups on the sink. I have a clip here from the actual official Sediment Buster video, which I use a small clip of in the video. I don't have any documents for this one. I didn't need anything. I do have a graphic that I found of a water heater. If you have gas, a shutoff, I use that in the video. And I have the thumbnails that I ended up using. And actually here, my music track is empty. So we'll have to go find a music track together. So what I will do is I will take all of these things here, these four folders, and very simply, I will just drag them into the event, and then I will let go. And now what happens is I now have a keyword collection for each of those folders. And that's where that one setting comes into play of creating keyword collections from folders. So to me, this is a really easy way to bring my footage in right away. And if I go to each of these, you'll see, hey, here's all the footage, right? Here's the footage here. We're seeing it. So here's my A-roll, my B-cam, my B-roll, my graphics. And so this is everything that was shot with A-cam that's B-roll. And this is all the B-roll together because this B-roll folder has A-cam and B-cam inside of it. So the A-cam keyword collection only has this footage here. The B-cam keyword collection only has this footage, and the B-roll keyword collection has all this footage, and this clip.
in it. So it has everything. And that's how keyword collections can be really effective, is you can have multiple keyword collections and a single file. And if I press Command K, I can see what keyword collections this individual file is in. So let's say I go down here. This one is just in graphics, okay? And you can add something else here. You can create a new keyword from here. And I would say that's actually really helpful if maybe you're shooting something that's like an interview, where you're interviewing a whole bunch of different people and you're asking them the same questions. So you're getting the same questions and you're asking the same questions to a whole bunch of different people at different times, but you want to keep track of which questions, because as you're doing your edit, maybe you're cutting between different answers from different people throughout. So keyword collection would be super good for that, because you can make each question a different keyword collection. And then you put all of those questions from each person into that keyword collection. And now you have a collection of just those questions for each person. So now when you get to that part of the edit, you can just click on that keyword collection and all your clips will be only that question. And you can even keyword collect specific sections of something. So I could say this specific section I want to be, keyword example, right? And now look, it's created a keyword example clip that is only that section that I highlighted, okay? It's just the section that had my in and out point marked. So that's how you can use keyword collections and how they can be really effective and helpful. All right, let's do some editing. Finally, 40 minutes of recording later. What I start with first is my story. I want to get my story down and get that right before I add any sort of flourishes or anything to it. So that will usually happen in what's called the primary storyline, which is your main timeline. That's this darker area across the middle, okay? Now, also we'll say that you see me editing here on one window. What I will typically have is I will take the viewer window here and I will have that only on my MacBook monitor by itself. And then on a screen above that, I have everything, the whole rest of the Final Cut interface. And that lets me have this really high quality MacBook Pro screen as what I'm monitoring things on, and then the rest of the interface up top. So I always edit on a 2-screen display. I'm just doing a 1-screen display here to make it a little bit easier for you to see everything that's going on. So here we go. We're gonna start with our main story, which for this is our A-roll. Now, it's been a few weeks since I shot this, so I don't actually remember what the good clips are here, which is a great example of how you might have footage. You might not know what the footage is necessarily. Maybe you weren't the one who shot it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all 4 of these clips, and I'm temporarily gonna hide my inspector over here with Command 4 to give me a little more room to work with. So I've got these 4 clips. I've got them labeled. I labeled them before I imported them. That's something else I like to do is label my footage, rename my footage, number it so I know what order I shot it in. I'm just gonna take these and I'm just gonna drop them into the timeline, okay? And I just used E to put them all in. You could also, we could undo that. You could also drag and drop them. I drag and drop things sometimes. Now, immediately what's happened is you can tell, like, I can't see all of my footage. So we're just gonna hit Shift Z. Okay, and Shift Z takes it and shrinks it all down into a viewable space. That also works here in the viewer. Let's say I've zoomed out on my viewer because I want to make sure I'm seeing everything, but now I want to fill it back up. We're just going to hit Shift Z, right? And if we double check our thing here, it's set to fit. Okay, we can do 50%, but that's cool. I want to keep it at fit. So Shift Z will automatically fit your viewer and your timeline to the available space. All right, now here is my pro tip for how I like to edit clips like this. So if I have something where I'm going to use clips from the same long clip, I'm going to use shorter clips from the same long thing throughout, this is what I always do. I first create a compound clip of that entire clip, even if it's just one clip, but here I have 4, I'm going to create a compound clip of that clip. And here's why. And so I'm actually going to name this, I'm going to name this A-roll compound clip. Okay, and that way I know what this is. All right, now it all looks like one clip in the timeline. But now I can click into it, and we're going to go back to where it was separate clips. So here I still have my 4 separate clips. The reason I do this is so that I can make changes to the entire clip that will then ripple into the compound clip. But I can cut up the compound clip into separate pieces and distribute it throughout the timeline wherever I want to. If I were to not make a compound clip and just cut up my master clip and edit it throughout the timeline, what happens if I want to make a color correction change or an audio change or a framing change to all the clips? I now have to go and do them all individually, or at the very least select them all and paste in new attributes. And that is just takes too much time. So what I'm going to do is create this compound clip, and now I can apply adjustments only to these 4 clips. And all I have to, they're always going to be, they're never going to be trimmed or cut or anything. They'll always be just like this. So the first thing I'm noticing is the audio levels between these two, between these 3 are about the same, and this one is different. So if I play it real quick, yeah, we're looking at like -10, -12, but this one, -6, -3, -1. So these 3 are actually where they need to be. This one needs to come up. So we'll open up our inspector and we'll go to our audio. This is what I usually do. I usually just click the loudness button and then see where that gets me. All right, so we're -6 on our peaks. I want our peaks to be -3. So I'm just going to go up 3 more dB. And now my peaks are at -3. We're going to double check this one because I think these are actually a little too high. Yeah, so that peaked at 0. So I know these 3 are about the same. We're going to pull these 3 back down by 3 decibels. And now our peaks should be at -3, roughly. It's peaking at 6. So maybe we'll just go up a little bit. We'll go to -2. Now, typically, the reason I go to -3 is I just want a little bit of padding there. I don't want to go over 0 for sure because you don't want to clip. And I don't typically like to put a limiter in unless I have to. So this is just how I do real quick, get my audio levels to be about the same. As I listen to it more and more, I will make minor adjustments. But to make those adjustments, I just need to go into here. Unless I'm doing like a keyframe or something, and I might do that in the master timeline. What else am I seeing here that I want to adjust? I think everything is okay for right now. I think this all looks good. And so I'm going to go back to my main timeline that has my clip in, and I'm just going to start trimming this to tell the story. All right, there is a story to tell, and I need to find the story. I've got bad takes. I've got things that maybe just don't end up working as well as I thought they would. And so I need to take this, what is now currently, how long are we? 20, yep, a little over 20 minutes of this, and I need to trim this down into something that's usable. And so let's go. All right, so I'm using command bracket just to do a trim.
This to this. Ever wonder why your hot water smells like rotten eggs, maybe, or why your water heater isn't working as efficiently?
And now I'm actually just going to speed up my playback because I can tell when my mistakes are. Now, one weird thing you just noticed is there, when I scrolled my timeline, I'm going to turn off audio skimming here for a second just so I can, it's not distracting. One weird thing that happens in Final Cut is, for example, I'm going to move the playhead down here and I'm going to hit play. And you're going to see, as I scroll the timeline, you're not going to see the waveforms for that portion of the timeline once it scrolls until you stop playing. It's just a weird thing that Final Cut does. It doesn't show the waveforms until it has a chance to catch up. So watch here. Let's hit play. And now I'm going to scroll. There's no waveforms. Where are they? They're gone. As soon as I hit pause, they come into play. They're there. So just know that that's the case. So let's go back a bit here. I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to hit play at a faster speed, and we'll keep going. Okay, so here's a redo that I did.
This is not as hard. This is not as hard as it sounds. And you don't need to be a plumber to do that. This is
Okay, so we're gonna go back to this. Here we go. Here's our cut. So I'm gonna blade it there, and then I'm just gonna come over here and ripple it over, just trim that over. So now I'm just gonna play it back.
when we're done. This is not as hard as it sounds.
Let's see. Try and get my hands. Okay, so it's going to end up being a jump cut, which is fine. There's lots of jump cuts in these. So let's make it sound natural.
This is not as hard as it sounds. And you don't. Here's the big picture takeaway.
Okay, all right. So actually, I ended up going further back on my second take.
Here's the big
Okay, so we went back to here's the big picture. So we'll cut that back.
This.
Okay,
Here's the.
there we go. I'm just going to cut it like that.
Here's the big picture. Hold on, myself. Here's the big picture takeaway I want you to have from this video when we're done. And I'm saying this before I even know. This is not as hard as it sounds. And do it in the comments. You really just need to be able to follow directions. Now walk you through the whole process. Let's do it. But first, before we start,
Oh,
let's do it. But first,
okay, let's do it.
but before,
But before we start, okay.
let's do it. But before we start, safety first. You're working with hot water and pressure and potentially gas. So take your time and follow this first step. If you haven't got your water heater, switch off the breaker and gas. Turn the thermostat back to pilot or shut off the gas supply. If you're uncomfortable with either of these first steps, it's probably best to call a plumber. But I also encourage you to search reputable sources online for how to safely perform this step. Well, you know, all we're doing is water and air. Go inside around your house. Here's the first step. Go inside. From here, though, all we're dealing with is water and air. Here's our first step. Go inside around your house and open up new hot water plugs. Okay, say preferably something close to or directly above the hot water inside. Anything close to the water in there. This helps to purge the hot water from the tank and starts cooling things.
Oh, okay. Oh, my script got a little ahead of itself.
This helps to purge the hot water. This helps to purge that.
Looks like it keeps happening. Now, a lot of the editing that I'm doing, I am looking at the waveforms down here, and that tells me what's happening or about to happen with the speaking. So like I can look at these sections and go, oh, something happened. I clearly stopped talking, and you can see, yeah, I'm up here messing with the teleprompter on the script. The script got a little ahead. I use an app that moves with my voice so that I can control the pace. But sometimes if there's like similar words below where I'm at, it will jump ahead and think it's there. So we got to tweak that. So we go from cooling thing.
This helps to purge.
This helps.
This helps to
Okay, so we're going to cut to here. We'll just cut this all out right here. Boom.
the barrier. This helps to purge the barrier.
Could probably tighten it up a little bit.
This helps to purge
There
the
we go.
very hot water inside the tank. It starts cooling it down so when the water comes out, it's easier to work with than you're basically something. Once you have cooler water flowing from hot water bubbles, turn the faucet off. Do not pull this down to stay closed. Next, you grab one hose and connect it to the sender buster wrapped around it. The sender buster works best with the thin cord opening on the hose, which allows maximally knock the water out of the flow. Next, attach the other end of the hose to the drain or outside area where you can see the discharge line. Now I'm draining my Now I'm draining mine into the laundry sink with and I put a mesh screen material sink with
Now here I'm just using the mouse actually because my mouse was already right there. So sometimes it's just easier to grab the edge of the clip and drag it rather than using the keyboard shortcut. To me, it's like it's all about speed. Like, what's the fastest thing to do right then to accomplish what I need to accomplish? There is no one way that is the best. I think generally speaking, keyboard shortcuts are faster, but sometimes the mouse is faster.
Screen material over top of it to catch the sediment and to keep sediment both from going into the drain and also demonstrate how much sediment is in the tank and now being done. Next, take the double female swing bag of sending buster and thread it into the drain valve at the bottom of the water heater. Make sure a rubber gasket can see how many temperature fluid thread.
So a lot of this is also like me I know what B-roll I have. Like I know I have B-roll of all these things I'm talking about already. So I'm also just sort of thinking about where I'm going to stick that B-roll and like knowing, just having an idea in my mind of like what I have to come back and do. I could use markers for this also, but I like to just get this first cut done. There's a long pause here. Why? I think I was freewheeling the script here.
Now, like I said, I placed a mesh screen material over this I recommend you also filter the discharge water, so you're just letting the sediment go into the box. So here's how to do this. Open the sediment buffer valve and keep it open. Then open the drain valve for your water. If you see a steady flow of water coming out, you're already flushing. But if nothing comes out or just a little trickle comes out,
it's pretty funny watching yourself and talking about yourself while editing. A built-in air intake valve. I'm not sure if it could sound more robotic. It is one of my favorite gadgets to always have in the car. That air pump is awesome. Like, it's just rechargeable, just USB-C. It's definitely helped me out a few times. I love that thing. Yeah, this is so funny because if you watch that video already, you'll when I was doing it, immediately like my water started coming out and it was pretty much clear right away, and I was expecting this like nasty brown water, which I didn't get, which is why I then had to go and get a clip from the Sediment Buster official video itself to show what your water could look like if the maintenance hadn't been done. I think ultimately my hot water heater was a lot newer. When we just moved into the house not even 2 years ago, so I think they had just replaced it before we moved in. So these are like things you don't know when you shoot the video of what it's going to be, because I hadn't done it yet when I was shooting this video. I was about to do it live.
Next, we turn off the cold water supply that runs into the hot water tank. This stops new water from coming into the tank and allows the tank to fully drain. Like mine, we're just trying to locate here on the top. Now, we're going to use some more air.
Oh, you can see I didn't. Now, here's what, if I turn on scrolling, here's what scrolling does. Let's play with it for a little bit, actually. Let's see. Maybe I can convince myself to like it. So this is interesting. So it keeps the waveforms in place. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Maybe I can learn to like this here and now.
At this point, we flush the drain tank, but let's do one final rinse to make sure it's status. Turn on the cold water intake for 5 to 7 seconds. Then turn off.
It's a pretty clean segment here. It's a mistake right here. Hold on.
Repeat this process of turning the cold water on off. Repeat this process of turning the cold water on.
Okay, so it's a busted take here. We're gonna go to here. Yeah, so that's another section where I know as I'm doing the edit that I don't have B-roll of the different, like dramatic difference. So I'm already knowing that I have to go find that B-roll. Okay, so now, okay, so we've got, what is this here? Oh, this is my, right. I did an off-script review of the process after I had done it. And if I remember right, I think I did 3 takes of this. So actually, let's look inside the clip. This is where if you know what content you have, then you might be able to say, you know what, I know which take I want to keep. And I think I kept the 3rd take on this. So let's go listen to the 3rd take inside the compound clip. Let's see. Oh man. Yes, it would. Yeah, and if you found this video helpful so far, a like and subscribe would be great. I am over an hour into filming this right now, so I'm super curious if this take is going to get used at all, because this is a long freaking video now. I wanted this to be like a 20-minute video. It's really hard. I have so much I want to say about editing, like so many things that I think are important to know and that have been useful for me over the years. Like, I've made a career out of doing this because I figured out I did it, I learned how to do it myself, and I have so many things that I want to share that it turns out that it just takes a long time to do that. So I remember now that this was the clip that I wanted to use, and I didn't use anything from these 2 clips. So I'm actually just going to pull these out of the compound clip, which you can do. It's your compound clip. Now, what you'll see here is that since I already had that compound clip in the timeline, the length of the compound clip is the original length, and I have all this black at the end. So all I got to do is come down to where I know I'm done, and I can just, right there, I can see I'm done. I'm walking towards the camera. Yep. So I can just trim it here, and that's it. We know that's going to be the end of the clip. But let's watch this clip to make sure we like it. I know I botched right at the beginning. We got to go back some because it slipped into the wrong position. There's the busted take. Okay, here we go. Oh, right. Okay. Right. Now I remember. Okay, so I think I'm going to cut here because I think I say this again if you found this video helpful. So we'll watch it and find out. Yeah, it's true. That was basically the process. Yep. I feel like this has turned into a react video. I'm reacting to myself in my previous video, agreeing with everything I said. Shocking. Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, so now we got to go back. I think we got to take out some of this. We got to take out this. Yeah. Yep. Give it a like. All right, so we're going to cut that part out and let's see how this transition goes now. Hold on, what does this say? I got to make sure this makes sense. Hold on. You can prevent some nasty odors, noises. Huge difference, right? So by doing this, you're ready to go and take a look at the difference. This is what came out of the tank before flushing. And this is what it looked like after draining and rinsing. Huge difference, right? So by doing this simple maintenance once a year, you can extend the life of your water heater, improve efficiency and reduce energy costs. You can prevent some nasty odors, mold. And this is what it looked like after draining and rinsing. I'm just trying to find the best spot to cut to what I say at the end, which is when I finish. So I need to find a natural spot where I come out of the original script that makes sense to transition into this impromptu script that I created for the ending. Okay, so I'm just trying to find this. Here we go. We're turning things back on. I think here is probably the best spot. I'm just going to kill this clip, and we're going to see how this feels.
Look like after draining and rinsing. Huge difference, right? All right, so I've finished draining and flushing the tank. And if you found this video helpful so far, a like and a subscribe would be awesome.
Maybe we just skip this part. I know in the original edit I kept it, but I'm not liking it now.
Huge difference, right? And if you found this video helpful so far, a like and a subscribe would be awesome. Thanks. I just want to give a quick wrap up of how
So there's obviously a difference here in my candor here. Like, I'm super excited. Huge difference. Right. And then I'm like a little mellow. Like, it's just the way it goes. Like, this was an unscripted thing. This is my own channel, my own content. I don't care. If this was for a client, we obviously would have shot this, making sure that the candor was correct. But if we hadn't, I would have to figure out something to do here that if we weren't able to reshoot it, because I don't love this change in candor. But what I probably will do is put like a punch in here that'll at least separate. It'll give some more visual separation. But I think we're good. We've now got this down to what did we get it down to? 10.5 minutes. We cut a bunch off. 10.5 minutes? Oh, right, because we didn't use those 2 clips that were just takes. So, okay, not bad. We're pretty good. I thought it was going to be about 12 minutes, I think. I think the original one, what was the original one? Let's look at this thing. We got to version 2 on this, and the final version was, 11.5 minutes. And just so you know, here's a little sneak peek. Like, this is the entire timeline. Let me make the clips a little bit smaller here so you can see. So here's my ultimate timeline of what happened, what I did. So you can see all the A-roll, but then we have B-roll here in the secondary storyline. Primary storyline is here, all this. We even have captions up top, so here's all the captions that get added later. We have graphics along the way, just as connected clips. You see, if we look at this one right here, you can see it's connected. Where's the connection point? Connection point is probably... Oh, I don't even know. What the heck? Oh, there it is right there. I didn't know what I was talking about. The connection point's right down here on the primary storyline. So you can see it moves if I move it. You can see this little dot moving along the bottom. So we'll put that back where it was. All right. But this is sort of what we're going to end up with. And you can see we have music down at the bottom. We have this custom background thing here that just sort of covers any space that ends up showing. We have an overlay for when I create a 16:9 version. There's this overlap zone that I use. So that's where we're going to with this. All right, so now we've got a rough cut of the timeline, which is how I start. So I get to the point where I've got my entire timeline cut down into a version that is pretty clean. Now, I will massage this along the way as I listen to it again, and I'll tweak some things here and there. But generally speaking, I now know that this is generally my story that I'm going to tell. Things that I will change it for as I listen to it again are just overall flow and repetition of things. So if it ends up, as I'm listening back to it, I hear that I'm kind of saying the same thing again twice, I might cut out one of those instances just to get the story to flow as well as I can. That's going to happen a lot on this video that I'm making right here. I'm sure there's a bunch, like, I'm long-winded as all get out, like, so I'm going to cut a bunch of this. Even this right here, I'm probably going to have to cut. Here's what I normally do. I know that I have bumpers on each end at the beginning, the intro, and the outro. All right, so I'm just going to go back to a previous video, and we're going to grab it from the beginning. So here's me. Yeah, okay, it's these 2 things right here. So I'm going to grab these, and we're going to go back to our clip. So we're going to stick them pretty close to the beginning.
Welcome back. Today, we're going to take the water in your water heater from this to this. Ever wonder why your hot water smells like...
Okay, so I know I'm going to have B-roll right here, so put a marker from this to this. Okay, so I'm actually going to slide these over so they come in after this first B-roll. Here we go. Bam. Okay, it's out, and then it's going to be, hey, it's me. Okay, so this is off kilter a little bit. We got to put it over here.
But I know that for the 9:16 version, I'm going to have to move this graphic. So this is where having this overlay, I'm going to grab it from the original version. This is another actual graphic that I need. Having this overlay in place actually is helpful now while I'm thinking about the 16:9 version. So I know that I'm going to have a 9:16 version. And so what I might actually do is, let me see here, I am off center throughout this. So what I'm going to take this and put it inside the compound clip also. Extend it all the way out. And that's going to let me actually do something here. I'm going to do a little bit of a punch in, not on that, wrong thing. I'm going to do a little bit of a punch in. So I'm in the inspector here and I'm going to transform. I'm going to punch it in a little bit and then I'm just going to grab it and move it to where I want it. So this is where having the checkerboard is useful. You see, it looks like I'm on black here, but I can tell as soon as I see the checkerboard, I've gone too far. So this actually repositions it right in the center of the frame. Let's see what this clip looks like. This clip needs the same thing. I might be able to copy and paste this. I don't want to move those, but we'll move these. How does that get us? It's not bad. We'll move it a little bit. We got a little bit of extra room. You can see here over on the left of my viewer where the edge of the actual video frame is, and then I can see where the dark is. I know that that's how much room I have to move, right? So I can, now sometimes I'll do this with my X and Y. If I only wanted to move X and didn't want to touch Y, I would use these to move it. And I'd move it up and down. And that way it locks the one coordinate. Now here I need a little more room, so I'm actually going to punch a little bit more just to get it centered a little bit. The other thing I would check here is to make sure that I stay in frame. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty much, this is the center. Sometimes the frame you grab is off center. So this is pretty good. Okay, so what that does is then that puts me here into where I'm centered. Now let's turn off the overlay frame inside the compound clip. All right. So I also know for the 16:9 version, yeah, I'm gonna want this. I'm kind of thinking ahead here. Like, I don't want to do too much extra work. So I might, this is okay. I'll just scale this in the 9:16 version. But for this, I'm gonna move this now into the center. Into the center of the frame. And what will I do with the arrow? I gotta move the arrow some. Let's position the arrow. Here we go. I don't know. You know what? Maybe I'll just get rid of it. I don't like it. Okay, I'll turn that off. All right, so I know I'm going to go through and put markers everywhere that I need B-roll now. I could have done this on my first pass. I probably should have. This is the other thing about editing. Is like, you do something and you talk about it out loud like I'm doing here, and you realize, you know what, why do I do it like that? That doesn't actually make as much sense as I thought it did. So I think that's something I might start doing is as I do a first pass, mark my clips for where I need to put B-roll, especially on long clips like this, long timelines. Okay. Air intake valve. Now I know this is going to be covered by B-roll here, so I might be able to trim this up and make it sound tighter than it actually is. My delivery is bad here. I should have done another take of this, but I didn't. So let's see if I can just tighten up, just cut it up, and it's going to be under B-roll. That sounds almost worse. Let's see how tight we can get it. Intake valve. That's a little too. So you can insert. This is why I don't. Right here. This is exactly why I don't like the auto scrolling. Right. I want to see. I'm working with a specific section of audio, and I want to keep it in view. But if I turn on the auto scroll, it moves away from my view right away. So here. That's pretty good. So here, check this out. I'm going to highlight a section here. I'm going to turn on looping with Command L, and then I'm going to hit /. Looping was already on, so let's turn it on now and hit the thing. So now I can listen to the same section again and again. It's pretty good. So that's how I would review a section of audio that I was working with. You can select the range, turn on looping with Command L, and then hit the / to start the loop, and it'll start the loop at the beginning of your range, and it'll loop back at the end of the range, and so you can just listen to it again and again. That's a really quick way to determine something. So I think overall that's a pretty good cut up. I think if that was over B-roll, you probably wouldn't notice that it had been chopped up as much.
So you can insert air.
You can insert air.
You can insert air directly
there we go.
Into your water tank without having to disconnect.
Now you can see the timeline. Let's zoom in a little bit more. All right, so you can see on the timeline, I have all these markers set up, and that just tells me basically every single piece of B-roll that I need at one of those markers. Now, some of them are multiple shot B-rolls, like there's this montage that I'm gonna create of opening the faucet, like turning the faucets on from, it's like 3 or 4 different faucets, so it's like on. I thought it would be clever, I don't know, it's, and then there's the reverse of it of turning them all off. So that is some of those shots where you see some of those sequences. And, you know, there's shots of like opening the valve, and then a cut to like the water draining, and a cut to, you know, hitting it with air. So there's a lot of that I'll basically reuse, you know, multiple times, a similar or the same shot, because I'm demonstrating the process, which is a very similar process throughout. So let's just start at the beginning, and we're going to go with dirty to this. And so we will need, when we come back from that B-roll, we're going to need to hit the, need to hit this again. So we need to, that B-roll, we're probably going to have to extend this clip. Let's see. I probably could have left it alone. All right, let's find some B-roll. Let's find our dirty water B-roll. Here we go. So this is the sediment buster thing. So we need the shot of dirty water. Yeah, there we go. Here, so he's talking through it. Shout out to Sediment Buster for following me on here too. That was pretty awesome. I love this tool. Really good. All right, here we go. Where's our dirty water? Dirty water shot. Here we go. Dirty water. We'll just go in. We'll just take the in and this out, and then we'll attach it. We want a video only edit. I don't need the audio on this, so we can use Command 2 to shift to video only, and then we will do a attach edit. I'm going to delete this guide for now just to get out of the way. Now obviously that was too long of a clip, so we'll just drag it in. He's going to say from this, like I said, he's going to say, I'm going to say, and then we want clean water. We need a shot of clean water that we have. So let's give ourselves a little more room to work with here. Okay, I'm going to reduce the clip size a little bit. Again, normally I'd be on 2 screens here, and I'm going to close. I'm going to close the inspector. There we go. And I'm going to turn on this, and we'll go. Well, we can go 3 wide. There we go. So we can go 3 wide, and I can see my shots. I need a shot of clean water coming out. Let's see. B-roll, clean water. Let's go to the end when we have a real good clean water flow. There we go. That's a pretty clean shot. So, but I think what we're going to have to do is bring it down. I'm probably going to have to punch in on it. Let's see. So we'll bring up our inspector. We'll zoom in. And then we'll just reposition this. Maybe we'll go a little bit more. This is where shooting at a higher resolution than you're delivering at is helpful. Now I'm still probably losing some resolution here because 270%, but this is why shooting in 4K but delivering in 1080 is helpful, because I have 200% that I can go to before I lose any resolution. So that's useful. All right, let's time these out.
and they're connected. So I'm going to hit Command G to create a secondary storyline. I do this a lot with any clips, any connected clips that are touching each other. I will create a secondary storyline. It's much easier to work with because then the clips do slide. The magnetic timeline takes over. Whereas, look here, if I didn't have them connected, didn't have them in a secondary storyline, I could trim this and now I have a gap. And sometimes you want that, but I don't want that. I want these clips together so that they stay together. Well, let's get our timing right. No, that needs to be longer, right? There we go. It needs to be up until we go to this. And we're gonna let this go. Here we go. From this to this. Okay, yeah. And then we'll need to we gotta bring this back all under here so that when we come back, I'm talking right away. Here we go. To this. Ever wonder why your hot water smells like? Yeah, timing's it could be a little longer. Ever wonder why there we go. Hot water smells like rocky water? Okay, so we have a shot of the sediment buster that we need. Let's see. Let's get rid of where's my so-called beauty shot of the sediment buster? Here we go. Which one do I like? I did two. I think one where I was holding it. Yeah, this is not bad. Here we go. Little rotation. Right to there. Yeah, there we rotated. All right. We'll connect it. Tool I found called the sediment buster. Now, I've never done this before. This is called the sediment buster. Now, I've never done this before. This is actually. I'm going to extend that a little bit more. Let's see. Now, I've never done this before. This is actually my. Okay, that's not bad. Yeah, so a lot of editing is feel. You are editing for timing and flow and how a shot feels. You don't want to force something because you want it just to feel right. So you need to be on a certain shot for long enough and you need to cut at the right point. That's one of the things I think I enjoy most about editing is like finding that flow that tells the story in the way it needs to be told. Okay, so now I'm talking about this video that I've got, which is on learning something new. So I have to go into my how to learn new stuff thing, and we're going to find, let's see, what was the last version of that? So 16:9 V3 was the final version. So what I really need to do is like, here's what I'm looking for here. I'm just looking for a section of this clip that I can use. That's good. Here we go. So I've got all 5 steps out here. So this could be interesting. And the 5th one pops up. That's not bad. That's not a bad section. So I'm going to select a range. I'm going to use the range tool. And we're just going to grab this and see what it's like. Where are we? 5. Okay. Let's see if this works. We'll go back to our timeline and we'll just pop it here. Oh, that's the thing I hate. It inserts it when you paste it. So insert it there so it doesn't cut my clip. There's probably a way to do that without. Oh, I'm so silly. It's Command V. It's not Command V. It's here. I'll show you. It's Option V. Paste as connected clip. You learn something new every day. All right, so I've got a thing. I'm going to pull the audio out. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can dip it down manually, or you can go into the inspector, go to your audio, and just turn off the dialogue, right? That's the wrong clip, actually, so let's not do it on that one. Do it on this one, and we just turn it off. So now it has no audio enabled. I don't need the audio. But let's check out. Let's see what this looks like. Check it out. Also, that's cool. It's not even there. So what has happened? Okay. So in that other video, this is a complicated story, but the blend mode was set to behind, right? I'm trying to figure out why I can't see the clip right now. See, all I'm seeing is the clip underneath. I should be seeing this clip from my other video, but I'm not. Why? Because the blend mode is set to behind, which means it is effectively making this clip be like this. It's making it be behind the other clip. Now, there are reasons for doing that, and that is a much more advanced technique that you get into when you are trying to control the positioning or the color of certain clips, but not affecting other clips. You get into a blend mode like behind, where you can put something above something else, but have it show below it. So let's switch this back to normal and see what happens. Voila, there it is. Okay, now I also don't want it to be full screen, but that's fine. So it's gonna be too long. Let's get a little effect here. Let's go in. I got this Final Cut Pro picture-in-picture. I love this thing. It's great. And we're just gonna make a little thing here. We're gonna change it to a rectangle, and we got to change the pip scale to, that's probably a little too big, so we'll scale it a little bit more. That's not bad right there. We'll position it where I'm pointing. Yeah, I'm pointing there. I think the border is a little too big. We'll go 15. And I don't love the color. We'll just go to white on the border. There we go. Simple.
Check it out.
Let's actually make this a little longer.
Check it out.
Okay. And I want it to build in and build out. Do I want it to build in and build out?
Exact topic. Check it out.
No, I don't want it to build in and build out. I just want it to come,
Exact topic. Check it out.
pop in,
Also, I'm not in any way
pop out a little bit sooner.
Also, I'm not in any
Okay,
way
that's cool.
by Sediment Buster. I saw.
Let's just go to the next thing. So I'm just going to roll. I'm going to slide through the timeline and just find my B-roll that I need.
This is not as hard as it sounds.
I think I want to do a quote there. So let's find a title that I like. There's so many titles. Something that I can just do. This is not as hard as it sounds. This is always the part that drives me, where I just I spend so much time doing something. What would this look like? Let's see. Okay, let's look at this. Can we turn off the background? Okay, yeah.
Not as hard as it sounds.
There we go. That's interesting. Let's turn off the colorize, because I don't know that I agree with that. All right, we're going to remap white to... Try and do brand colors here. Let's see if this works. Oh yeah, bars. No. Yeah, we gotta get these right colors. These are wrong. We want this to be white. Yeah, white. There we go. All right, where's the other bars? Here we go. Let's change these. Boom. Oh yeah. Now we're getting something more branded. All right, so, and I don't love Helvetica, but let's get the words on here. This is not as hard as it sounds. You can do it. All right, we're gonna need a different font here. Let's just find something quick. I've used that one before. Let's see, just something sans serif, not too, that's fine. All right, we're scaled down some. Maybe. What does it look like whenever it comes in? Oh, okay. Well, let's, wait, can we make this box bigger though? There we go. Adjust, the text can be the way I want it to, and then I can adjust the box behind it. What font? Industry, okay. Industry, there we go. All right, this I will make bigger though. Maybe. Ooh, yeah. There we go, let's play with that. We'll just move this up a little bit. Oh, not X scale, that's fine, not the box. Position, there we go. Okay, so it looks like we have two different tones. Here we go, as it sounds, you can do it. Okay, that's not bad. I mean, I might play with that some, but it's good enough for now. Okay, so now we have this breaker shot. I know I have B-roll of the breaker. Let's turn off our inspector so we have a little more room to work with. Here we go, here's our breaker shot. And I think I have audio with it. I might even have it marked here. Nope, that's not it. There we go. Oh, this is turning the breaker back on. Wait.
Oh, that's off. Okay. Wait, is this going off too? Oh yeah, there we go. That's the shot I want. All right, so let's grab that, drop it down here. But hold on, I have to shift back to all editing. I need the audio on this one actually. So here we go. Switch off the breaker.
Switch off the breaker. If it's gas, turn
I want that tick to be right in between when I'm talking.
switch off the breaker.
There we go.
If it's gas, turn the thermostat. Switch off the breaker. If it's gas,
Yeah, that's good.
if it's gas, turn the thermostat to pilot.
Okay, here's where we're gonna need our graphic.
To pilot or shut off the gas.
Okay, actually there's a shot here too. So there's two shots right here. So we need this. Okay, we're gonna need it to be about that long. And there is some stock footage that I remember getting. But where did I put? Oh, it's in this stock folder here. Here we go. Okay, these are two pieces of stock. So I'm actually going to create another keyword. Beachboard. I'm going to create a keyword collection called stock. And I'm going to go here and I'm just going to grab these two clips and drag them onto stock. So then they're in that keyword. All right, I need a shot of this, the gas being turned off, which is, this is turning it on. This is turning it off. There's my off. Right when the hand's reaching in, that's good. And then we'll take her out right when they're there. All right, and we'll drop this in. We'll grab these two and combine them together and see what happens.
Switch off the breaker. If it's gas, turn the thermostat to pilot or shut off the gas supply completely.
Yeah, okay, so that timing is good. This clip obviously doesn't work yet because we can see I'm behind it. It's not filling the frame. So let's open our inspector. Let's set our spatial conform to fill. And that's a little too much of a fill. Nope, so let's not. Oh yeah, never mind, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. My brain went crazy there. Yeah, so filling is fine because we need to see this stuff in the middle. And I don't love, this feels a little dark to me. So if I turn on my scopes, which are incredibly hard to see like that, I feel like it needs to just be a little brighter. Yeah, and it's a little yellow. There we go. All right, that's just a quick color correction. Usually I do my corrections at the end, but sometimes when it's something simple like this, I'll just do it right away. All right, so we need, what do I say? Let's turn off our scopes.
Pilot or is that to pilot?
Okay, so we're setting to pilot. So I need to highlight pilot there in some way. So there's a lot of different titles that I could use to do that, where I create like a circle around something. But I'm just going to use, I like this ripple callouts in circle thing. It works pretty well. Let's see where it's at to begin with. Okay, it's a little big. That's fine. So we're going to bring it down. We're going to scale it. Boop, 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 boop. Scale. That's good. We'll remove it into position. I think white is fine. It makes it pop. Let's see what the timing is. Yep, perfect. And then it just cuts. Does it disappear? Oh, yeah, okay. So I don't want it to build out, animate off. I just want it to cut. There we go. Perfect.
If you're uncomfortable with either of these four steps, it's probably best to call a plumber. But I also encourage you to search reputable sources online for how to safely perform this step. From here, though, now let's open a few hot water faucets.
Okay, so here's our hot water faucet montage. Let's go to B-roll. Let's find our clips of that. Here we go. Okay, so we've got a sink here. There's open. I think I did it again though. Yeah, okay, I've got it down here. Oh, right, okay. So we go open, boom. All we're gonna do is, we're just gonna assemble first and then we'll get the timings right. And we're actually gonna use the audio from these. Right there, in, off, together. This one, oh, this thing needs to be adjusted. Is that one it's already running? I don't like. Let's show this like this one. Oh, there we go. It's like a weird angle.
think I'm having to reach in and around the camera. That's what it is. Okay, that's on. All right, and I think there's one more, isn't there? Yeah, there's this one. It's already running. So I don't have me turning, well, I guess I have this one. But I don't like that I'm in the shot. I want just my arm. So here I'm just turning the water off, but what I'll do is just I'll take the shot and reverse it. So we'll pull it down here. We will hit Command R, and then we will go to here and we'll just hit reverse. So now it should look like I'm turning it on. Yeah. Okay, so now let's put these in a secondary storyline. Let's close that. All right, let's get the timing right. Let's make it like this is always supposed to be like a snatch sequence, like the getting on the plane and traveling to New York thing, like boom, 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 like that. But it's, you know, it's obviously not going to be because, you know, me compared to Guy Ritchie sucks, you know, hard. It's not bad. I just want it to be faster. So let's start it right when I'm about to turn the water on. My hand's already there. Here we go. Let's see what this sequence looks like. Right as I'm reaching. Okay, it's going up, and then this one. I'm already there. Okay, let's see what this looks like. And let's end it sooner. I think each one just needs to end a lot faster. Okay, let's try. That's not bad. Okay, good. Now let's increase the audio on them a little bit here. Let's go to audio. Just pump them up like, oh, it did it. Yeah, 7 dB maybe. This one's weak. Let's go loudness and then go all the way. Here we go. Whoa, that's crazy. No, I don't want noise removal. I mean, maybe we just do this. Just take it, steal the audio from this one. Like, is anybody gonna know? No, it's perfect. Nobody knows. You could also just detach the audio here and keep these together. You could actually then put these in a compound clip and say sync water on CC, and now there we go. Yeah, that's what I would do. It just keeps it cleaner. Like, it's better audio. Nobody's ever going to know that it's the exact same clip again, so it's fine. Like, it's not even the same clip. It's just the same audio. Yeah, I mean, it's slightly different. We could adjust the audio slightly, like. And it's merged with the other audio, so it is, like, if you go in there, it's still got both audios, but they're combined, but it just makes it better. I'm going to move this over a little bit. Maybe to when after I say faucets. So another option here is to do this. Like, I could bring these down into the primary storyline. Okay. This is another option. See, I don't like that as much, though. I don't know. I think it just takes too long. So I think having these above, and maybe I just pull the audio down on a touch since I am talking over them. Let me just let them be a little bit quieter. Yeah, that's not bad. Let me just do a little audio fade on the end. Yeah. I dig it. Zoom out a little bit. Cool. Let's find our next B-roll. Hold on.
faucets, turn the faucets off.
All right, this is the same montage, but it's the faucets off. So, you know, let's do a little something here. Let's see if we could just do this in an easy way. We've got these clips here. We're going to turn them off. I'm pretty sure this is turning them on. I think I have later, if we slip the clips, I think we have shots of me turning them off. Yep, here we go. So here's my hand coming in.
Faucets off.
Off. You could also just select a different portion of the clip, but okay. So when you have right here this split frame, let me close the inspector so you can see. All right, so when you go into this tool, which is the trim tool, or by hitting T, if you click and drag on a clip, you can ripple the clip left and right. And what that means is the length of the clip stays the same, but what you're seeing in the clip is different based on how much extra footage you have on either side of your in and out points for that clip. So you can see my in and out points are highlighted yellow here. And when I go to drag left and right, it changes to 2 frames. Those 2 frames are my first frame and my last frame. So in this way, I can time my clip to be, I want to be right when I'm about to push it closed. There it is. That's probably a little too much. Let's get right when my hand is about there. There we go. Let's see. There we go. Yep. Now we're going to do the same for this. Oh, right. This is a... Okay. This is a compound clip, which makes things more complicated because what you have access to editing outside of the clip is determined by what's inside the clip. So I had the clip shortened to only what I wanted in this first shot, but really I should have kept it longer. So I'm going to reset my first shot of it opening. Is this clip really only me turning on the water? Okay, so for the sync, I'm going to have to find a different clip. Now, here we go. We're going to do an edit here, a replace edit, by just dragging the clip, the selected frames that I want, and dragging it down on the top, and I get this menu that pops up. I can replace it. I can replace from start, I can replace from end, and other options too. If I hit replace, it is going to take the length of the clip that I have selected to put in, and it's going to adjust the other clips around it so that the full clip that I've selected fits in. Usually that's isn't what I want. I want to keep the length of the clip the same. So I'm going to hit replace from start, and you see nothing changed on my length. And that's it. My timing's perfect. Yeah, good. Let's see. We'll wait till... I might actually do a little break here. So the other thing that I can do is if I don't want to put this secondary storyline into the primary storyline, but I still want some overlap, I can create a gap clip, and you can do that with Option W. So let's see what that looks like. Actually, let's go back. Yeah, that's good. Let's look at it one more time. Yeah, that's good. All right, so ultimately, we're going to keep doing this. At this point, I've shown you all the different kinds of things that I will do to manipulate audio, to manipulate different clips together. The last thing that I would do when I'm done is I would go in and I would do a color grade. And so I'm going to do that here. These 2 clips are the same. There's a couple ways to do this. And I'm going to actually try something new here for the first time that I haven't tried before, because Apple just added in 11.1, they added their own built-in adjustment clips. And so I think they're in titles over here. Let me see if I can find these. These are not... Okay, so yeah, I took a second there. I had to figure out where this was, but apparently it's in the edit menu, and you can add adjustment clip. And you know, this does not have a keyboard shortcut assigned to it. You can see right here it's empty. So actually, let's do that. Let's assign a keyboard shortcut to this. via the Final Cut Pro menu, command sets. See, I already have a custom command set here, so let's go to customize. And we're going to go to, we're going to find adjustment, add adjustment clip. And I'm going to make it option A. And then we're going to save that. So this is a great way that you can build your own custom keyboard shortcuts. So that should be saved. So now if we go to edit, add adjustment clip, option A. So now I can hit option A and it's going to add an adjustment clip. Now I actually do want to here, let's remove that. And we're going to take this and how long is this clip? This clip's like 13 minutes long. So we'll type in 13. So that was Control D and then the length that we want. And then I can just adjust it in. So now I'm going to use this to color grade it. We're going to go up into here. My default is wheels. I like wheels. So, and then what I will do is I will open up my my scopes. Now here, it's really hard on just one screen to actually see my scopes at all. But I'm going to try to hit my skin tone scope. That looks about right there. My blacks are a little, I'll bring those down a touch. Bring this up a little bit. The highlights, my highlights are peaking. You can see right here on this Luma thing. My highlights are peaking, but it's the reflection on the metal behind me. So I don't much care about that. Like there's no detail in that I'm worried about. So I don't mind that it's clipping because it makes the rest of the shot look good. So I would say like, this is super straightforward. I'm not doing a look here. Like this is just very neutral. I don't really, like I care, but I don't care. Like this is my own video. It looks fine. I'm not that worried about spending a ton of time on it, developing a look. Certain things I care about more. Today, this is not one of those things. So I would say that generally gives me what I'm looking for. And then I would just go through and do the rest of this until in the end, I end up with what we already saw earlier. And that is this edit that looks like this, where we've got all this stuff in here. I've created my captions. I've created like sort of chapters, right? I've got music that I'm dipping up and down with keyframes.
And it makes it easier for the water to flow out the tank.
And then we're doing these sections here like this.
With the sediment buster valve closed, open the tank valve and inject short bursts of air into the tank.
Look and see how here I've got this gap clip in place for the audio from the burst. Let's listen.
Air into the tank. Then open the sediment buster valve and let the sediment pour out.
So I've got some more
Keep
sort of
injecting short
sound,
bursts of air
natural
until the
sound
water starts
from the
moving
event.
into the cleaning.
More sound of me doing that with a gap clip.
Which indicates the water level is very low.
So this is how, like, using overlapping clips to create the look that you want to do. I've got punches in here.
For water, get some water. Ultimately,
So here's a punch, a little bit of a punch for a cut that I did. This just lets me like choose like how much I want to punch. Maybe I want the punch to be there. And that's sort of my flow. And when I'm done, I'm gonna select all the clips. I'll go back to the other edit. I'm gonna select all the clips with audio. Once my edit is locked in, I'm not gonna make any more changes to the dialogue. And then I'm gonna hit, I was right to hit edit. And then we're gonna scroll down to captions and we're gonna do transcribed captions. And this is a relatively new feature in Final Cut. But look, this is a almost 11-minute clip, and it just transcribed it to captions in about 7 seconds. So that's pretty good, and I would bet that they're pretty accurate. Let's just pick a random spot like here.
interesting. It's one of my favorite gadgets to always have in the car. Inject a few short bursts of air into the tank, 1 to 2 seconds each. Don't keep the air flowing continuously. Sediment buster.
Okay, so here's an example. It doesn't know to capitalize sediment buster, right? So if we wanted to fix that, we just go into the title. we can bring up our inspector and do it, or we can just double click on the title and we can just make that edit, right? There we go, Sentiment Buster, done. And then you have the option, you can export these with captions burned in. You can export a caption file. You can export a caption file and convert it to SRT and then bring it back in as a more decorative SRT using a title effect that I like to use a lot. I use this one called Subtitles. Subtitles by Sugar Effects. Just has, you can make your stuff a little bit more decorative, but it's still regular subtitles. With the subtitles it generates, you can't make a lot of aesthetic changes to the subtitles. You don't have a lot of choices for these. You can really change the text color, but you can't change the text size, positioning, like any of that stuff. So that's why I like to use another tool in between. But ultimately, the place that we're going is just this place here, where we've got everything filled in with all the B-roll that we shot. You see, look, I got a little graphic right here that I added to point out what I was talking about.
And that's where the Sentiment Buster is super cool, because it has a built-in air intake valve.
So that's funny. So in the original version, I didn't fix that whole air intake valve section like I did here. And that's just like, in some moment I have one preference, in some moments I have another preference. So
you can insert air directly into your water tank without having to disconnect your drain hose.
yeah, and this is just me running B-roll over top of it. So that's where we're going. And then when we're done, I'm just going in here, I'm picking the export that I want, I'm making sure it's named the way I want, and then I'm saving it to my, I go into this specific project and I save this specific video in the exports folder. And you can see for the actual water heater one, I had multiple versions that I exported. I did 2 versions of 16:9, and I did a version of 9:16, and then I did a short for 9:16, like a master short. So that is sort of how I go about editing, but I hope this was informative. If you like this, feel free to leave a like, maybe even subscribe. You know, I enjoy making this kind of more free-flowing content. Like I didn't have a script for today. I have an outline that I'm just kind of checking and make sure I'm covering some stuff. There are some more advanced topics that I think I'll cover in the future. But I like this little bit less scripted format. I might even try to do some more of these where I just kind of talk for a while about different subjects that I'm interested in between my more scripted videos where I'm trying to get something in a more concise amount of time. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.